Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today is Thursday, and I am chilling up here by my lonesome. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Got a lot to talk about today. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. We'll go ahead and, of course, start with our first sponsor of today's show. And first up, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about frequency apps. Every day, people are fighting the same battles, cravings that hit out of nowhere, stress that derails good intentions, habits that feel impossible to break. And while the world pushes quick fixes, injections, and synthetic shortcuts, most people are just looking for support that fits their lifestyle without needles, without drugs, without side effects that they've never asked for. That's why Frequency Apps created the GLP Alternative Patch, a natural frequency-based wellness patch made right here in the USA, inspired by the body's own GLP-1 pathway, delivering natural frequency-driven support for people who want balance, clarity, and control in their daily routine. Peel it, apply it, and forget it. It works quietly in the background while you live your day at work, at home, and in the moments where cravings usually win. No injections, no complicated protocols, no side effects, just natural, needle-free support for a healthier balance. But the GLP-1 alternative patch is only the beginning. Frequency Apps offers a full lineup of affordable, easy-to-use homeopathic patches designed to support everyday wellness, whether someone needs help with relaxing, comfort, or clarity. There's a patch built for that moment. Each patch uses frequency-based technology to support the body's energetic balance. No mess, no mixing, no learning curve. Just stick it on and go. It's part of a healthy journey that fits real life. And the other way, and no, there's not the other way around. Badlanders can now receive 20% off the new GLP, or $20, off the new GLP alternative patch with promo code FREEDOM. Subscriptions are available too, saving up to 20% for ongoing support. Call 616-755-8446 or visit frequencyapps.com today. Again, 616-755-8446 or visit frequencyapps.com today. All right, and let's get ready to jump into the news. Not that story. Let's start out with this story right here. Where'd it go? Hey, there it is. If you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up. And let's get into it. Whoop. There we go. All right, so we've got now the confirmation of the other two U.S. service members, the 5th and 6th soldiers overall that have been killed thus far in Operation Epic Fury. We have Major General Jeffrey O'Brien from Indianola, Iowa, and Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert Marzan from Sacramento, California. These were killed in the same attack. I believe they're in Kuwait. Took a little bit longer, I guess, to identify them and everything else. So absolutely tragic. Six servicemen now that are all killed, and they all appear to be from the same unit, or at least working in and around that unit. The actual MOSs of these two individuals. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I know they had published it. Let me see if I can find that real quick so we get a full rundown. We talked yesterday about the other members, the 4 members that were killed. And let's see, we got here
Major Jeffrey O'Brien died on March 1st in Port Shuaiba, Kuwait, during an unmanned aircraft attack. The soldier was assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command out of Des Moines, Iowa. This incident's under investigation. Chief Warrant Officer 3 was at the scene of the incident on March 1st and is believed to be the individual who perished at the scene. Positive identification of Chief Warrant Officer 3 will be completed. The soldier was assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command. So that's both of them were from this 103rd. And let's see, the other ones were also, let me see. Hold on one second here. That's Major O'Brien. And the others, I believe, were also from, I'm not seeing it real quick here, but yeah, either way, absolutely tragic to see that. So fair winds and following seas to those men and women who have been killed thus far in the attacks there. All right, let's jump into our first story here from the New York Times. Justice Department, under pressure from Trump, fails to build auto pen case against Biden. And this case is seemingly gone by the wayside now. And that's extremely disappointing. A lot of people have been concerned about, why hasn't Fauci been arrested? Why hasn't Schiff been arrested and all this stuff? And a lot of that had to do with the preemptive pardons and delegitimizing those preemptive pardons. An absolutely absurd concept on its face that a president can not just pardon you for any crime, which I'm with that. That's within our Constitution. But a president should not have the authority, even outside of the concept of the auto pen and Joe Biden's cognitive decline and everything else, should not have the authority to carte blanche pardon you for something that we don't even know what you did, right? For all we know, these people could come up and you could have some hugely treasonous activity that they did, detrimental to the United States, and they have a preemptive pardon because somebody said, I'm going to forgive them for everything they ever did from this time to this time. Doesn't matter what it was. We don't know what it was. We have no way of assessing the relevance of what they did, the significance of what they did, but we're just going to carte blanche. We're just going to pardon you. It's absurd. The New York Times writes, the department's failure to build a criminal case against Mr. Biden and his aides is the latest example of its increasing ability to follow through on Mr. Trump's demands and bring indictments against those he wants to be criminally targeted. Some of those cases were rejected by grand juries, some were rejected by judges, and some, like the AutoPen case, were abandoned by prosecutors. Now, there is a key distinction here, and I don't know if this matters at all, but they're talking specifically here about bringing criminal charges in this, a criminal case. Now, I don't necessarily know if going after this criminally would be the best, path to take, or if you're more interested in delegitimizing the pardons themselves, the auto pen pardons themselves, verifying that these were in fact signed by an auto pen. And I think it was Tony Saruga who put on X that Biden was in St. Croix when the mass number of these, not the names we all know, but the criminals that were already locked up in federal penitentiaries, where that was signed off. That particular pardon was signed off in Washington, D.C. The Gateway Pundit reported on this. I remember you see this all the time pop up in articles, that he was in St. Croix, but the pardons were signed in D.C. while he was not present. Again, something that the president himself, who's given that authority, should be signing off on. Okay. So again, I don't know if a criminal case is the best way to go about this, or, this could be kind of smoke and mirrors. Who knows? It says the fact that prosecutors even pursued the matter to begin with reflects the degree to which Mr. Trump has sought to use the levers of government to undermine Joe Biden's quote unquote presidency. The AutoPen investigation was led by the U.S. Attorney in Washington, Jeanine Pirro. The inquiry was quietly shelved in recent months around the time that prosecutors under Miss Pirro, sought and failed to secure an indictment in a different case. That's the 6 Democrat lawmakers who posted that seditious video about the troops not following unlawful orders from the president. A grand jury refused to issue an indictment, a once incredibly rare action in the federal court system, but one that has become more common as the Trump administration pushes the limits of the criminal justice system. Now, again, I don't necessarily know that criminal charges was the best way to go about delegitimizing the autopen. I think, you could make the 25th Amendment argument that Joe Biden was not cognitively there. That's absolutely possible. But, just the fact that I don't think a preemptive pardon should be, there's only been one time when a preemptive pardon has been used in our nation's history. As far as I know, I think the only time was Richard Nixon when he was preemptively pardoned for anything having to do with Watergate. But other than that, as far as I know, it hasn't been done. Now, President Trump has said previously that all of these pardons against, the heavy hitters, the politicians, the J6 sham committee, et cetera, those are all illegitimate. Now, he did go on to notably say that Hunter Biden was the only preemptive pardon that was actually legit. So that was kind of fascinating when we got that clip from President Trump where he said that. So, we will keep on monitoring this and see what happens, but it is not looking good for this Department of Justice. I got to say, I know, do I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes? Absolutely. Do I think there's a ton of friction that they're getting from the bureaucrats that are embedded in these agencies, the Department of Justice being one of them? Yes, absolutely. It is one of the most liberal professions in our country. Law is one of the most liberal professions in our country. And the idea that President Trump was able to come in here and clean it up instantly overnight is absurd. And it's got to be a long going process. But again, it's concerning. It is absolutely concerning that, these cases are not sticking. So again, I think that this is maybe looking at this through the wrong perspective of a criminal case as opposed to delegitimization. But it's still not a great look for the president and not for the president, but for the DOJ. I do want to go to this and just, talking about the cognitive decline. This was an old clip of Speaker Johnson talking about exactly that.
The president reaches over just like this. We're sitting right next to the fireplace in the Oval, and he grabs my arm and he says, "The speaker and I just need a couple minutes together. Will y'all just leave us alone?" And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, "Oh, no, he did it." So he called it. He's the commander in chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table. And I said, "Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard, and I think you know. And what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, "Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago." And he goes, "No, I didn't do that." And he's arguing with me. I said, "Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that." And he goes, "Oh, you talk about natural gas." "Yes, sir." He said, No, you misunderstand." He said, "What I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG." I said, "No, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security." It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
So, yeah, you've got it there from Speaker Johnson. The actual cognitive decline of Joe Biden and the subversion that was taking place within the people in Joe Biden's inner circle, the gatekeeping, so to speak, where it was worse than just gatekeeping. They could just simply pass it off and they'll just turn around and give it away to somebody else. You can delegate it to, I'm trying to think of the people that were in his immediate circle. We've talked about it so much, but it was so long ago that I've forgotten many of the names. But either way, once again, preemptive pardons, it is a question that I think needs to be brought up in a constitutional grounds, whether or not the president has that authority to look at somebody and pardon somebody as a person and not as a specific crime. And we'll talk a little bit about another constitutional question a little bit later on in the show, when we get to Congress, because yesterday was a pretty busy day in Congress. So let's jump into this story here from from Fox News. Now, I've said this before. We've seen the weaponization of the district courts against President Trump and this administration and his policy and the agenda that he has a mandate from the American people to effectuate. And we've seen a lot of pushback. And one of the things that, President Trump has been able to claim is that he has a very high success rate in the appellate and at the Supreme Court with a lot of these decisions. Obviously, the tariff one was a pretty big blow to his policy, but again, something that they were quickly able to sidestep because I think they had contingencies in place if something were to happen with that. But one of the things that I think we need to look at when we're seeing the radicalization of the district courts right now is the idea that if you have a decision that makes its way through the appellate process up to the Supreme Court and you are unanimously ruled against at the Supreme Court, I think that there needs to be an investigation into that judge. There is nothing in this country that is unanimous. Very little. I shouldn't say nothing because, of course.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
I should have had that ready to go a little bit quicker. But a majority of the times that the Supreme Court is unanimous on something, I think the judge needs to be looked at. I think the district judge that made that decision needs to be investigated. But let's jump into this. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson authors unanimous SCOTUS opinion handing Trump an immigration win. Justice Jackson authored the unanimous ruling on Wednesday ordering federal appeals courts to defer to immigration judges when reviewing asylum decisions. Now, immigration judges are administrative judges. They're not constitutional judges. They're not Article 3 judges. They are effectively, they answer to the executive branch rather than to the judicial branch. Now, there's a process that leads to them making it through the cases that they see, making it through the judicial branch, but it begins effectively as an executive action. Jackson wrote that immigration law requires federal courts to use a quote unquote substantial evidence standard when reviewing immigration judges' decisions about whether an asylum seeker could face persecution if deported. It's a high bar that courts must meet before overturning an immigration judge's findings, making it more difficult for migrants to challenge their deportations. The decision affirmed that the judicial branch must largely defer to the executive branch's findings about whether the migrant would suffer persecution if deported, rather than start from scratch and conduct its own review. America First Policy Institute wrote on X that, quote, the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled that immigration agencies, not individual judges, determine asylum claims based on alleged persecution. A clear reminder, America's laws should be enforced as written. Now, this is kind of interesting to me. And again, I have not read this decision, so I'm just going off of what's, kind of reported here in this article. But this brings up an interesting question about the bureaucratic administrative judges, not Article 3 judges, and their decision making here. So in this particular case, you're talking about illegal migrants. I firmly believe that illegal migrants, the amount of constitutional rights that are afforded to an illegal immigrant, an illegal alien, are very limited in the scope of what an American citizen, right? An American citizen is afforded all of the rights granted under the Constitution. One of those rights would be due process under the law. And so this decision sounds like the due process is being it's being determined by the executive branch and not afforded to the judicial branch. I don't know that that's how it was intended. However, for a U.S. citizen, I should have clarified that. I don't know if that's how it was intended for a U.S. citizen. For an illegal alien, perhaps. Now, the reason I bring this up is because Ash and I covered Neil Gorsuch Overruled on Badlands Book Club. I think it was 2 books ago. Well, yeah, we did Smedley Butler. We did Turning, and now we're doing Stolen Election. So 4 books ago, we did Neil Gorsuch Overruled. And in reading that book, a lot of what Gorsuch hammers on is the administrative state that we live in, the bureaucratic state, the regulations and rules, some of them now involving criminal sanctions that are basically put into effect by bureaucrats rather than the legislative branch. And again, I think that is a in and of itself unconstitutional. However, one of the things he talks about in that book is these administrative courts, and not just at the immigration level. The EPA has their own administrative courts. They all have their own administrative courts. Any bureaucratic agency that you can think of has courts that you can go through, and they're very limited as to what they can hear. They're also hugely conflicted because they're directly paid by the executive branch that is trying to enforce the rules and regulations. So in other words, if you do something with the EPA and the EPA tries to give you like this massive fine and you challenge that fine, you don't go to a federal court to have your evidence heard. You go to an EPA court, an administrative court, to have that heard. And I feel like that is not the way that our Constitution was intended to be. The due process was intended under our Constitution. But anyways, I'm getting a little winded on that. The Supreme Court was tasked with reviewing whether the First Circuit examined the immigration judges' decisions thoroughly enough. The High Court concluded that the First Circuit rightly leaned heavily on the immigration judge's determination. So again, in other words, they're saying that the courts didn't look at the evidence themselves. They looked at what the evidence was that the immigration courts saw. And again, to me, I'm not happy with that when it applies to U.S. citizens. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break here, and we will jump into our next sponsor.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Oh man, the commercials, the hits keep coming. The hits keep coming. All right, let's go ahead, and we got one more sponsor before we get back into the news. And let's see. There we go. I need my Bill O'Reilly. Clip back, but yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into this sponsor here. Guys, they can freeze your accounts and shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. It's real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. Now that's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet. Peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. All right. Let's jump back into the news here. And interesting clip that we had on The View, right? Let's jump into this. Elizabeth Hasselbeck schooling them on immigration.
I think all lives matter to God. And we're in uncommon times, so we need to have uncommon sense about things like this. Yes, there will be mistakes made, but I think if Kristi Noem were up for promotion right now and she put forward the statistics that 0 illegals released into the U.S. for 10 months straight have not crossed, okay? That nearly 3 million aliens have left the United States, that we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, that fentanyl trafficking is down 56% at the border, and daily encounters have gone down 96%. Hang on one second. We need a strong border, especially now with our current global situation. And I believe that you may say you don't want border control and you're against ICE, but I actually don't believe you in your daily lives. How many people in the audience here had to go through security to get here? Raise your hand, just be honest. Otherwise you go to jail, I guess, for illegal trespassing, right? This is an authorized audience. They had to go through security to get through the border, to get right here, to just hear us talk. We need strong borders more than ever right now. We are being infiltrated.
Okay, so she makes her point right there. Listen to the audience's reaction, and then just listen to the absolute sheer retardation of a response you get from this panel of derps.
On the border when Renee Good and Alex Peretti were murdered, and death is not a mistake. That was a murder.
Oh, yeah, let's all applaud for the people that were murdered. They were murdered. No, they interfered with a law enforcement operation. One of them tried to drive a car. The other at an ICE agent. I mean, come on, guys. Like, and the crowd, like, they wanted so bad. They wanted so bad to cheer for what that woman said. I don't know if they were told not to or what, but they wanted so badly to cheer for what Hasselbeck says there. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they realized they were going to start cheering, but what about Peretti? And what about Renee Good? The people that tried to run over an ICE agent, and the other one that had a gun when he was trying to stop ICE from detaining somebody physically. Now, I've said all along there needs to be an investigation into the Peretti shooting. It was not the best looking look, but, you know, I'm not going to sit there and say that that they were murdered. I don't for a second believe that they were murdered, but let's just use that logic there, and let's apply it to hear what we got from who is this? This is a representative. I can never remember. Cohen. I can never remember this guy's name. He's just so unmemorable.
They are very unlikely to commit offenses. For the folks that are here and your families, I'm sorry. It's terrible what happened to your children or your family members, but they are more likely, and citizens are more likely to be attacked by United States citizens who are not undocumented, who came here and are born here. They are more likely to commit these crimes.
Okay, probably not a very smart thing to say to the American citizens whose loved ones were killed by illegal immigrants who had no business being here. Well, you know, it's okay that your family members died because, you know, they're more likely that they would have died from a U.S. citizen. Oh, so is that the logic that we're allowed to apply now? Let's go back to 2020, Summer of Love, right? We watched cities burn down, billions of dollars, $2 billion in damages to our cities while these guys were kneeling in the rotunda. Remember that? They put on the little African scarves, the colorful scarves, and they took a knee in the rotunda in solidarity with BLM and the black men and women that are killed by law enforcement. Well, Mr. Cohen, did you know that a black man is infinitely, by orders of magnitude, more likely to be killed by another black man than law enforcement? I mean, what an absurd thing to say. And what a double standard. They literally drummed up BLM for a whole year. Now, it was an election year and anything to get Trump out of office. And so if their retards latched onto that and were like, hey, this BLM thing is kind of cool, we should jump in on this. Look, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are taking a knee in the rotunda. Let's get behind this. The FBI is taking a knee in solidarity with BLM. Let's get behind this. Then that just goes to show the level of retardation of the left. But am I making sense on this? Like the hypocrisy and what Cohen is saying there, justifying to American citizens that, well, you know, it could have happened some other way. Well, you're more likely to be killed by texting and driving than you are an ICE agent. So what are we doing about texting and driving? Well, we got to focus on Renee Good and Alex Peretti. I just... I mean, that's an absurd thing to say. Like, you can make your argument without making a comparison like that directly to the victims who lost their loved ones. And the level of hypocrisy in what they're saying there is just it's shocking. All right, let's keep moving along here. We'll jump into this story here from InfoWars exclusive. Jeff Clark resigns from Trump administration, vows to continue the fight. This is from InfoWars. Now, Ash and I just interviewed Harry McDougal, who was the attorney that represented Jeff Clark in his disbarment hearing in Washington, D.C. He also has represented a lot of other cases, especially dealing with the elections. It was a fantastic interview. Friday night's Why We Vote. I would definitely go back and recommend checking it out. Harry McDougal is a fantastic individual and a lawyer that we need in this fight. But Jeff Clark resigning here, I don't know that I would necessarily look at this as a bad thing. I think, he just resigned because he wants to go back into public life. It's kind of like the process we've seen, Bongino leaving when he left, Elon Musk leaving Doge. He had to as a special government employee. It's interesting, but I do want to highlight his achievements because I read his resignation letter, and I haven't been able to go levels deep on it yet. But man, he did a bang up job. So it says Jeff Clark has submitted his resignation from the Trump administration, where he served as the acting administrator. So acting, meaning he was not Senate confirmed. So this could have something to do with why he resigned, right? We saw what they did with Halligan and everybody else, all the U.S. attorneys that were acting U.S. attorneys, that the Senate, because the Senate's too busy. The Senate is too busy to get these confirmations confirmed. They're too busy doing their paw parades and not voting on the SAVE Act and running campaigns like John Cornyn out in Texas. Yeah, they're too busy doing all that to actually do anything for the American people. But so acting administrator of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, a key regulatory oversight office within the Office of Management and Budget, in an exclusive letter addressed to the OMB, Director Russell Vought, Clark announced his decision to step back into private life, emphasizing that he remains committed to the broader conservative fight and will not abandon the mission. The White House has not yet commented publicly on the resignation or named a replacement for the OIRA leadership role. Now, let's jump into the article, the letter. This was exclusively obtained. It looks like Brianna Morello has her watermark on that. Before we get into the letter here, just quickly for those who may not know who Jeff Clark was, he was one of President Trump's co-defendants in the Trump RICO case. He was absolutely drugged and raked over the coals by the J6 sham committee over a draft letter that he wrote to President Trump addressing the 2020 election, a draft letter. It was never submitted. In other words, it's not on the official record. And they went after him for that. Now, I don't know how much you guys, you guys, we've talked about this, right? Attorney-client privilege. In fact, last week when I had Alpha was here, we talked about a story where Susie Wiles' attorney was spied on. A conversation between Susie Wiles and the FBI was spied on, by Susie Wiles and her attorney was spied on by the FBI. That breaches attorney-client privilege, one of the most important privileges in this country, because it stops spying and malicious prosecutions. The idea that Jeff Clark could have been punitively, reprimanded for a draft letter between him and his client, because the president of the United States is his client. When he's with the Department of Justice and he's acting as, I think he was a deputy assistant attorney general at that time. When he's acting in that capacity, the president is his client. And they went after him over a draft tweet. Meanwhile, we've got just absurd amounts of shenanigans taking place in our law right now. Preemptive pardons for one, and nothing ever happens from that. Nothing ever happens from that. So let's jump into the letter here. So he starts out, together we achieved much in the first year of the ambitious deregulatory program that the executive branch has ever embarked upon. 5 quick examples that are worth highlighting. This first one blew me away. President Trump issued Executive Order 14192 entitled Unleashing Prosperity Through Deregulation. tasking us with achieving a deregulation to regulation ratio of at least 10 to 1, meaning for every regulatory rule that is put in place, you have to take away 10. Okay. Again, if you didn't watch Overruled, Neil Gorsuch's book with Ash and I on Badlands Book Club, or if you haven't read it yourself, it is a fantastic read that will really begin to show you how the deep state actually applies in this country, how they work in this country. And it doesn't mean that, I'm not talking about the deep state like getting President Trump thrown out of office and spying on his campaign and all that. I'm talking about the deep state that is keeping us pinned down in a sense with regulation, with being able to interpret Congress's laws however they see fit and applying them to American citizens. And so the deregulation there has been a point that Gorsuch has, been very a strong proponent of. And so President Trump says you need at least 10 to 1 deregulation. It says, despite the fact that this represented a 5-fold increase from a more modest 2 to 1 mandate set in the president's first term. Okay. So 10 to 1, Trump says, let's go 5 times that. His first term, it was 2 to 1. For every new regulation, you have to deregulate, you have to delegitimize 2 regulations. We actually achieved an astonishing 129 to 1 ratio in fiscal year 2025. That number is insane. For every 1 new regulation thrust upon the American people by bureaucrats, they took away 129. That's crazy. That is a fantastic number. Clark goes on, the same executive order also tasks us with achieving a net economic impact of regulation at a level, quote, significantly less than 0, calculated by netting regulation against deregulation. On this metric, we achieved, along with our agency partners, a remarkable $212 billion in net deregulation for the national economy. This was roughly an entire order of magnitude higher than the amount of deregulation achieved in the entire second year of the Trump 45 presidential term. Now, I hope that all of this occurred because Jeff Clark put good people around him, because without him there, I don't want to see any of this undone. And I want to see this type of winning continue in the bureaucratic state. President Trump issued Executive Order 14215 entitled The Ensuring Accountability for All Agencies, which required for the first time in history all of the previously independent agencies, with one limited exception for some operations at the Federal Reserve, to submit their regulatory actions to the OIRA for centralized review. This made me the first leader of OIRA to directly review such regulatory actions, allowing us to repel serious incursions into the presidency, as well as heal many decades of damage done to the separation of powers. And you guys can read the rest of that letter. I'll land that there. Absolutely fantastic effort by Jeff Clark, an absolute hero. I got to try and get him on either Why We Vote, or I don't know, Why We Vote's the most applicable place for him to come on, but maybe get a segment here on Badlands Daily, because I would love to hear the story that guy, that Mr. Clark can tell. And by the way, guys, he has been, one of the things we talked about with Harry McDougal on Friday was that, he's gone from a really powerful, prominent attorney in Washington, D.C. to kind of a leper almost in the community because of his allegiance to this mission, to the America First agenda, and to President Trump. And so I'm here for it. All right. And then before we get into the big news of the day was Congress. There was a lot that took place in Congress, so we got a lot of clips on that. I do want to jump into this story here from CBS News. U.S. court convicts Japanese mafia leader for conspiring to traffic nuclear material to Iran. It says Takeshi Ebisawa, 61, had been jailed since April of 2022 on drug and weapons charges, along with his Thai Taiwanese co-defendant, following years of investigations by the US DEA. In February 24, he was also accused of trying to sell military-grade nuclear material along with narcotics, including heroin and methamphetamine, to buy weapons, including surface-to-air missiles, for armed groups in Myanmar. Ebisawa didn't know he was communicating with in 2021 and 2022 with a confidential source for the DEA, along with the source's associate who posed as an Iranian general. Quote, after initially offering uranium, Ebisawa proposed to supply the general with plutonium. That would be even better and more powerful than uranium for Iran's use, the Justice Department said on Monday. Ebisawa told the DEA's confidential source in 2020 that he had access to a large quantity of nuclear materials that he wanted to sell. The nuclear material came from an unidentified leader of an ethnic insurgent group in Myanmar who had been mining uranium in the country. Samples of the alleged nuclear materials were obtained in a U.S. federal lab, found they contained uranium, thorium, and plutonium, and that the, quote, isotope composition of the plutonium was weapons grade. Ebisawa conspired to sell 500 kilograms of methamphetamine and 500 kilograms of heroin to an undercover agent to be distributed in New York, worked to launder $100,000 in purported narcotics proceeds from the U.S. to Japan. That is, I mean, if that's not the epitome of how the intelligence apparatus works, and again, I'm not going to pretend to know, I know how our intelligence works with cartels and everything else. You have to assume, going back to the origins of Operation Gladio and the Luciano connections with the mob in New York and everything else in the 40s and 50s and 60s, you got to think that they have some connections in Yakuza, and you're literally looking at a guy that's using drug profits to buy weapons, especially weapons grade uranium and plutonium. And you got to wonder if there was did he just kind of set his course was set and he just, we don't need this guy anymore. Let's give him a victory here. We're seeing this now. I don't know. But again, it's concerning that a Japanese mafia member was able to, in any way, shape, or form, get their hands on nuclear materials and sell them potentially to Iran. Let's jump into the war stuff. Iran war. I had a lot on it yesterday and it disappeared. This is actually kind of cool. If, again, who knows if this is video game graphics or not, thermal imaging of an Iranian ship being sunk by a nuclear sub. This is the first time that a sub has sunk a ship since World War II. And this is just, that's crazy to see that. That thing just, oh, no.
Everything Trump does is bad. He doesn't.
Go back.
There you go. Good movie.
Oh, man.
I enjoyed it.
I don't want to listen to that. Go back. Sorry. Got it now. Maybe not. There we go. Now we got it. That's nuts, man. Like, look at right about here. Man, it's got that ship lifted up out of the water. I don't know. It looks like the ship might already be on fire. Like it's already been attacked. This is thermal, so that could be any heat source, but it sure looks like fire to me. Then it blows out of there. That's just massive. Here's what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had to say about it.
In the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II.
That's crazy.
Like in that war, back when we were still the War Department, we are fighting to win.
I guess, the main reason why it hasn't happened since 1942 is, because that's the last time we actually fought a legitimate war. Every other war since then has been against proxy states. Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. first off, the last two that I just named are landlocked. Well, Iraq's not, but Afghanistan's completely landlocked. Iraq is landlocked, isn't it? That never dawned on me. I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, it's not landlocked. It has a little bit of shore on the Persian Gulf. 36 miles. It's got 36 miles of coastline. So yeah, it's safe to say they don't have a very strong navy in Iraq. Anyways, but that's the last time we fought a legit war, was when we were fighting against, Germany, Japan, and the Allies. Italy's got a lot of coastline. All right. So the war thing there will bring me into the next story here from the Hill. Senate Republicans defeat measure to halt Iran strikes despite growing anxieties. The War Powers Resolution Act has been challenged again and shot down again. The motion to discharge the resolution from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee failed by a vote of 47 to 53. Rand Paul was the only Republican to vote to advance the measure, meaning to reel in the authority to conduct this attack. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski both voted to block the resolution, but both included notes of caution about the operation. Collins said before the vote that the administration had done a much better job explaining the mission to Congress than it had done during the assault to capture Nicolas Maduro. Murkowski agreed that the administration did a better job of earning GOP support for the strikes against Iran than it did before the military action against Venezuela. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll found that only 27% of respondents approved of the strikes against Iran. 27% approve of the strikes against Iran. Keep that number in mind. Senator Fetterman, was the only Democrat to block the measure. Jump down here. GOP lawmakers warned that pulling U.S. troops from an ongoing military conflict while Iran is launching hundreds of missiles against U.S. bases and installations in the Middle East would be irresponsible. Oh, look who decided to join us.
Perfect timing of words, too, as you bring me up.
Irresponsible? I'm starting to wonder if you were even in the Marine Corps. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Oh, talking about the War Powers Resolution and how there's just a WTF about who's supporting what and what's supporting who and everything else.
What do you mean a WTF about?
Well, you've got Rand Paul voting. You got Rand Paul voting for it. You've got Murkowski and Collins voting against it. You got Fetterman voting against it. You got Democrats voting for it. You've got an Ipsos Reuters poll showing 27% support for the attacks in Iran. That's not a good look for this administration, man. That is not at all a good look for this administration.
Explain.
Well, so the Rand Paul thing, I mean, where do you side with that? And I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking broadly here. A lot of people, Rand Paul with the tariffs and everything, Rand Paul's a piece of shit, blah, 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 right? Okay, well, now he's the one that's voting against a war, or he's voting actually to pull in Article 1, Section 8 powers back to Congress before declaring a war and pulling in the War Powers Resolution. But then on the other hand, you've got Murkowski and Collins and a bunch of others, of course, a bunch of, warmongering Republicans. It's not just Collins and Murkowski. But then you've got the poll showing a 27% support. Now think about that on the contrast, the SAVE Act, right? 81%, 83%, 89%, whatever percentage you're at, and they can't get that passed. But then they're passing a War Powers Resolution when only 27% of Americans support the war in Iran.
I don't think I believe that number, but even if that was the case, it all has to do with people on how they verbalize that poll. Because does anybody want to go to war? And it's no. But are wars necessary at times? So what have they done to us in the past to make the support for war go up? False flags. And there wasn't any false flags for this war. But if you look, why was there so much support around us going to war on 9/11? Well, because look at how it was presented. And the entire thing was propaganda. So this administration didn't do that this time. As a matter of fact, Trump's been very transparent with regards to this combat operation. He's been transparent about the time frame he expects. He's been transparent about we are probably going to lose some of our people. He's been transparent about that. But he also said a very important statement. This war is not about, or he didn't say war, but he said this is not about right now. This is about the future. And not a lot of people, and I'm going off the first statement he gave, that one that was like 8 minutes and 6 seconds or 8 seconds, whatever it was. That's an important statement. What was he talking about right then and there? And, myself and a few others have been talking about this is really about this war that's, you could say going on or prepping with China. And finally, Political came out yesterday. I'll grab it right now and bring it up for you. Came out and explained how this war is affecting China. And it's articulating some of the main points that we talked about. And this has to go with the oil and the energy crisis that it's creating for them. And so that would be my question. None of us have the briefings that, the information that President Trump's available to, right? And
no, but hold on, because stop there, because that's not a justification.
It
that
is.
We don't. No, it's not, because once this passes the 48-hour mark, we got to get Congress has to approve of this.
It doesn't have to approve, they just have to be notified.
They have to be notified, and they can reel that power in. He's called this a war. President Trump has called this a war. Okay, and there's no declaration of war. And this isn't a slight against President Trump, because this has been happening since World War II. Every single war that we've been engaged in since World War II has been an illegitimate war. This is another illegitimate war.
So he's also, and the word that he's used predominantly 98% of the time is combat operations. So we're going to ignore the fact that he calls it a combat operations and focus on the part. Well, he did say it was a war once or twice.
In his address, which is the notification of Congress, he calls it a war. He says America is at war. So he can call it a military operation after that. You're arguing semantics at that point.
It is semantics. That's what everybody focuses on. But he still has, what is it? He does the notification 48 hours. He has 38 days for Congress to give the approval. And then he still has 30 days to withdraw. So he still has 60 days where he can commit combat operations and nobody can complain about it. Or, I mean, everybody can complain about it, but they can't stop him.
Correct. Now, what's the justification we've got? We've heard... And
the justification we got, you have during Biden's administration 300 or 287 times the Houthis, who are a proxy of Iran, bombed American commercial and civilian vessels. That's not conspiracy. That's open source information. You have 3 weeks ago, the Khamenei goes and puts out a video. Oh, the Gerald Ford's on the way to the United States. We will put it in the bottom of the ocean. You have 2 years ago, the parliament of Iran right there on TV with American flags burning it, chanting death to America on top. And I mean, there's plenty of reasons for us to articulate that Iran is a threat to the United States.
And none of those have been articulated. There's 3 points that have been articulated to us as to why this war is taking place. 1, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. 2, Iran cannot have ballistic missiles that can protect us from being able to stop them when they do achieve a nuclear weapon. And 3, Iran cannot have a navy. Those are the 3 justifications of war that have been articulated to us. We've known about the Houthi engagement for years. Hezbollah, you can talk about all of that. We've known about that for years, and we've never engaged Iran.
Well, that's not smart. Why would you go after Iran directly? Address their proxies first, and he did that. He addressed it with the Houthis. Whether people like Israel or not, Israel's addressed Hezbollah and Hamas, regardless of what people's personal position on that. You absolutely address the proxies first. And the other thing that's very important is Trump did address the Houthis coming right into this administration. Like, that was one of the first things that he came and started doing, because remember, that was going to be the other endless wars that everybody told us that we're not a part of. But the other part too is Trump knew that this was coming. And one of the things, a telltale sign of that, and Ghost talks about it, he didn't talk about it through this perspective, but he does lay out the groundwork, is look at the relationships that he built out there during this first 13 months with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with the UAE, with all of them. He created an environment where everybody was seeing, hey, we're going to prosper. He provided military, deals with some of the countries that are surrounding there. Like he's bringing this area to realize, look, we can prosper if we're stabilized here. And what you will eventually end up seeing is, as Trump and them do these main initial attacks, these combat operations, this 60-day window we have, as Trump starts to pull out, you're going to see these other countries that are going to step in and take care of it. You're going to see the stabilization of that. And what's one of the big deals here for those that do have issue with Israel is you've removed the threat of the big boogeyman. During that first one with the military where he took out the nuclear sites, you saw that, well, they can potentially create again. They can potentially create again. Kind of, it's created the rhetoric that you're talking about right now. And I understand that. But what you're seeing right now is the complete obliteration. You're going to see a regime change there in the government, whether the people like it or not. I mean, I talked about this 2 years ago. You're going to see a regime change that's there. And you're going to see these countries it's going to bring stabilization there. And there are congressmen that have brought up the point that I'm talking about. I get it that Trump didn't put that in his 48-hour notice, but the reasons that he put would be considered more of an existential threat. They're a greater threat than the one I'm talking about. I'm just justifying that even though he's talking about the real-time threat, I'm talking about like these guys have been an issue for us for a very long time. And the 4 years before Trump, that administration did not deal with the problem.
The problem there is not Iran and the nuclear weapon program. The problem there is not Iran and the ballistic missile program. The problem in that region right there is that the CIA has been running that country for 5 decades now. For 5 decades. And this is why when he made the initial address, I loved the initial address. I loved it. I was like, okay, I'm in on this. Hasn't mentioned a single thing about it. We're getting news that the CIA is now backing Kurdish fighters to go in there on boots on the ground. That President Trump during that first address said, we're going to obliterate this regime, which they've done. We killed Khamenei. We allegedly, I think he might have already been dead, according to, me and Ghost talked about this, but Khamenei's out, killed, whatever it was, 47, 48, 49 of the people that would have been successors to him or legitimate, people that could have risen up and taken that place. And so our way of stabilizing that region is to take the CIA-backed Kurds who have failed us over and over and over again. And we failed them too, to be fair.
We failed them. There was
we have failed them. But this is the CIA. This isn't the United States of America doing this.
No, and I hear you. So this is, I think this is the ultimate question. Oh, not the ultimate question. This is a big question that I have. But again, with the Kurds, it goes back to, gosh, I interviewed him on People a while back. He carried the nuclear football. Buzz tells the story specifically about the Kurds, where he goes into the president's office and he's just like, hey, this general wants you on the phone. They need to talk. And he's just like, no, come back. And so, Buzz keeps going back and forth. Finally, the guy that's the general calls him. He's like, dude, I need to be on the phone with them now. By that time, it was too late because they said we were in a position where if the Kurds would have went, they actually could have won. But and this goes to the point you're saying, we failed them. So my thing is, if we judge military operations off the past, including the ones that me and you were both involved with, if we judge off of that, and we know that those were designed to fail. Like the military industrial complex was never looking for the victory. You saw how fast we smashed military objectives we had, you with Afghanistan and me in Iraq. So why did they turn out ultimately the way they did? Because they were never designed for us to win. So if we look at every operation that we've been a part of in the past, we have to also understand that those were designed to come out to the outcome that they did. It was never a failure because us or our allies didn't have the ability to accomplish the mission. So what it comes down to now is Trump using the apparatus, even the CIA, and I have issue with the CIA too. I'm sure there's 1% that are good, maybe a few more, but if it was my position, I'd say get rid of the CIA and create something else. But is Trump using the apparatus right now to accomplish something good? And if we look at his actions historically, he's given us every right to trust him. This is not blind trust. This is not cult mentality. He's batting 1,000 with the things that he's done. He's earned our trust so far. with everything, with the Houthis, with Taiwan, with Venezuela, with everything he's done. He has not failed us, whether even in the first administration or this administration, when it comes to military maneuvers. So why would we doubt him this time?
Because we are going headlong into another potential decades-long war.
What evidence is there for that?
Where's the exit ramp for President Trump on this?
Well, there's two. There's the one that they can force him into, which is the one we talked about.
Then he's dead. So the words we got in his address was, once we obliterate the administration, it's on you guys. And so he's dead. It's on them. Leave. Let it settle itself out in there.
The civilian part of the government, which he hasn't touched, the ones that were meeting with Witkoff and Kushner, when those guys tell him, hey, we now have the ability to fulfill the things what we were really negotiating about that nobody knew, now you can slowly back out. And I think this is where you're going to see the collaboration of other countries in that region come in there. It's not going to be us staying there and being, the police force that we've always been, because, Eric Prince is dying for that. He practically said it in that interview that he did with Bannon. So when people see that he
practically said what? That he's dying to get boots on the ground in there?
He didn't say that. What he said is, you can't win this with just airstrikes at all. You have to have ground troops. What's he saying? He
also said, under no circumstances should you send ground troops in there.
Exactly.
He doesn't want.
Well, guess what? He didn't want ground troops in Venezuela either, but he was sending out the memos or whatever, the
that was the discombobulator.
The proposal for because he wants to put operators. He wants the ground troops to him. He doesn't ever want that in there because that's not his business. He's saying, hey, you don't have to put ground troops in there. I have contractors for you guys to put in there, which is the military industrial complex, which is a deep state, which is the other part of the CIA. And he's wrong. Trump is showing you can absolutely do this and we know it's not just airstrikes. He does have ground intelligence that we'll probably never know about, but we know it exists. They've said, oh, it's Mossad, but we know damn well we probably have special forces that are on Iran's soil. There's nobody will ever admit it. No one's not going to convince me it's not the case, but there's a reason they're so damn accurate with these precision airstrikes. And you're going to see that. You're going to see either Trump forced out, the way we were talking about with Congress not giving him the approval, or you're going to see him, beat that and be like, all right, we've accomplished it. They're in a position where they can do this. We've seen that they've taken, because I think he just still needs to take out that police force, because that's just another version of the RGC. But regardless of what he continues to take out, you're going to see him back out. You're going to see the region that comes in there and starts doing any combat operations that are left. That's going to be the exit strategy. And the reason we know this is because people like Tucker Carlson are already trying to sell that as a loss. This is what he's going to say to make up that he didn't really win. And they know that. And why are they selling that as a loss now? Because they know that's always what was going to happen. If a lot of us were able to talk about that, the before this happened and exactly when it happened, because we knew how it was going to play out, because we have been accurate about everything, then Tucker Carlson is trying to sell a narrative to make it look like a loss for President Trump.
Who's been accurate about everything?
As far as the war stuff, myself and Josh.
You guys predicted that Trump was going into Iran?
Absolutely.
When? I would love to see that clip.
So we didn't just predict. As soon as he struck Venezuela and everybody said Iran was next, and you can ask the people in the audience right now, I said Iran's not going to be next. You're going to see operations that are going to take place in either Mexico or Colombia. Then you'll see Iran. And as soon as he hit Iran, ask everybody what I said. I said, now he's going to move back to South America. All of a sudden you saw the stuff with the cartels in Ecuador. And the reason being is because this is not about war in the Middle East. I don't have a crystal ball. Josh doesn't have a crystal ball. This is all about China. And when people start to look at it through the lens that this is about China, then you start looking at what he did for Iran by attacking the proxies. This is what he's doing to China. Since this is an energy war, and the only reason the energy matters is because this is an artificial intelligence war. This goes back to a conversation that we've had before.
Yep.
And that's what he's doing. When he went after Venezuela, people were like, China doesn't get most of its oil from Venezuela. Well, if you just Google Venezuela, it'll be a very small amount. But if you dive a little deeper and you look into the shell companies, you realize, holy smokes, China gets a ton of their oil from Venezuela. The next marker after that is Iran. He just went after two of the largest power sources for China and because China was capitalizing off these people because they're getting it at a very cheap price. So now China's going to be forced to buy oil from us with Venezuela at market value. They're going to be forced to do the same when it comes to Iran. You have China, I believe yesterday. Now, this I didn't confirm, but I did hear people talking about it, that China's saying, hey, we're not exporting diesel fuel or any of these other things. And why is this the case? You don't need oil for the AI part of the infrastructure, but you do need oil to build the parts that you need for the energy of the AI structure. And so what Trump is doing right now, and this goes back to Hillary Clinton. There's a reason she's in this timeline right now with her testimonies. And I don't think they ever questioned her about this. I haven't completely finished it yet. But when she gave up the SAP program, the special access programs to China with technology, we know that that probably included artificial intelligence. Trump knows what they have. He's destroying their ability for them to get there before us, or at least slowing them down. And that's what this has all been about. We are going to have a war. It's not going to be with Iran. It's going to be with China. And one of the flags for when that's going to be coming in a few months is I would look for when General Flynn releases that book. My guesstimation after that is within 6 to 8 months, we will be in a war with China. And what Trump's doing right now, he's positioning us for that. And
we'll see. We'll see. All right, we got to move on from this. We'll talk more about this on Sit Rep tonight. Alpha Schooling CannCon. Fretman Dan just said we're ending a 47-year war. You bought into the Fox News crap. Keep going. Look, this is going to destroy him in the midterms, man. It's going to destroy him in the midterms.
Again, if that's the case, he just supported 33 people and all 33 people won. Tell me how that proves that people are pissed with him.
It's the primaries, dude. It's the primaries.
We don't get to say that he's going to lose the midterms that are only a couple months away. When
the primaries are fake.
Now, whether we like the candidates that he endorsed or not, and I grant there's probably 2 or 3 that we can make an argument for that people don't like it, and I get it. Still, all 33, or I think it's up to 32 or 33. I could be getting the wrong one. I'll actually go with 32 because 33 people can call me Freemason. So all 32 people that he endorsed won. That shows support for him, whether we agree or not. Now, here's the other thing too, and we actually talked about this on Daily and some other shows, is people are going to win that we're probably not happy with. And right now, what people have to do is separate emotion and go with Trump needs to have Republicans in certain positions that are going to vote with him the majority of the time because he's going to win. And that's why we knew Whitley was going to win. It was one of the names I talked about. And I'm telling you guys right now, Susan Collins is going to win. And the reason being is there's not other people in those positions that are going to beat out the Democrats. And you got to have Republicans that are in there. Regardless of what deals you make, you got to have Republicans that are in there. Now, this is, again, all contingencies to him not fixing the elections, which, me and you agree completely on that part. But outside of that happening, this is the formula for us to maintain control of the Senate, since we're probably going to lose the House.
All right. Well, there we have it. 44 decades of presidents starting wars. We all heralded President Donald J. Trump for not starting any new wars, and now we're all celebrating it. So, hey, that makes me a black pillar, guys. I will black pill all day long. I will black pill all day long.
He hasn't started a war yet.
I mean, he declared his own war. He declared that he started a war.
He's getting.
I don't think he started it. And to be fair, I did go back and I said I think he's responding to Israel jumping the gun because Israel wants that to be shot down quicker than anything. The destruction of Iran. And I do think they jumped the gun. I think Rubio was right, and I think Rubio had to walk it back because the optics on that.
I disagree with Israel wanting the destruction of Iran.
Oh yeah, they want the destruction of Iran.
Oh yeah, because again, if Iran is destroyed,
they have no boogeyman.
They have no boogeyman. Israel wanted the threat of Iran to never be destroyed. That's what they wanted, because that would have allowed them to keep expanding. Once you erase that, right now, what I would look is I'd start looking at what other countries is Benjamin Netanyahu talking about. They're a threat because he's going to have to find a new boogeyman. And when he does, because he's going to, clip this part, they're going to present another country that's going to make the American people, as well as the people around the world, start to be like, man, you said you talked about Hezbollah, you talked about Hamas, you talked about Iran, and now you're saying this country is, now that these other three people are going to put two together and finally get four. And when I say people, I'm not talking about our audience. I'm talking about like, well,
I can't wait till people start like cheering on NATO again and like, yeah, NATO's entering the war. Turkey got hit. I can't wait to watch people just completely flip on this.
What
went from people who were like, yeah, no new wars and everything, and now they're fucking cheering for it. This is crazy to watch.
Let me prepare you guys. Let me prepare you guys. You guys will start watching mainstream media again. Mark my words.
Ugh.
You want me to tell you why? Because mainstream media
they want to continue peddling narratives that we've been at war with Iran for 47 years.
Well, we're not going to watch them as long as they're doing that. We're not going to watch them as long as we're doing that. People will start watching mainstream media again because they're finally going to start telling the truth. They're finally going to start reporting things. You're going to see the Smith-Mundt Act repealed before the end of Trump's presidency, and you're going to see mainstream. And one of the things is you're seeing mainstream media starting to seed this. They're starting to tell the truth on stuff. You're seeing people post on social media like CNN said that.
Well, they've always given out tidbits of truth,
but not on major things. On major things, they've always come after. I mean, unless it was something that was irrefutable, but they would rug pull. You haven't seen CNN come out and saying Trump can do tariffs. You haven't seen CNN or political reporting exactly what I'm talking about with the oil energy thing with China. And this is not a bad thing though. Before people flip out, it's not a bad thing, because what's going to happen is mainstream media is going to be the check and balance for alt media, because it's going to force alt media to stop going so crazy on some of the conspiracy theories and being a little bit more responsible. Hey, this is fact, this is speculation. And so that balance of, hey, if alt media just completely goes, extremist conspiracy, we're going to lose a good portion of the audience to mainstream because they're telling the truth now. And the mainstream's checks and balances is going to be this threat that they've now experienced with alt media to be like, hey, we better stay consistent with our honesty and truthful reporting. And it will actually be a benefit for the audience.
Well, I hope you're right, and this is a very short war, so we'll see. But then I hope you're wrong that it ends up in a Chinese war, because that is mutually assured destruction. So
I agree. I agree with that, and I'm hoping Xi is able to deal with the CCP over there, because if he is, I think the alternative, because I do think it'll be a huge war, the alternative will be guerrilla warfare. And I think if it goes to guerrilla warfare, which is what would be better, that's going to be because the CCP has lost its complete control over the entire, country of China. And hopefully it turns into something where it's like Iran, where we're assisting Xi with certain strategic strikes and things like that. We'll see, because I agree with you. It would be damn scary for mutual destruction.
Yeah, I think it'll also be fought over proxy, probably someplace like Taiwan first. Whether or not it escalates will show who has more. Well, both sides have restraint to attack mainlands, but
and somebody did put that, they didn't like that I'm saying that it's okay to attack China or set up this proxy war with China, and I get that, but also understand China's been doing that to us, folks. What do you think that immigration crisis into the United States was? That wasn't free. China was a large part of helping to facilitate that. How do you think all those people from those countries got to South America? So just understand that, yeah, you may consider it not right, but it's also unrestricted warfare, and China has been attacking us by proxy too.
All right, let's move on here. This clip went pretty viral yesterday. I can't listen to it, so I'm going to remove my headphones. If you guys are sensitive, you might not want to either, but this Marine goes into the congressional hearing, starts yelling about Israel starting the war, and gets his arm snapped. It's fucking gross. I'll listen to it.
No one wants to fight
Israel!
His hand, his hand. Oh, his hand.
All right, did it already happen? Oh my gosh.
I hope we're on the same page on this one. I hope, man.
Probably not. We probably are. We probably are. I agree with what he's saying. I don't think he should be putting his uniform on to say it. And also that's not the place to say it either.
So there's other thing I'll add. We agree so far. Freedom of speech, he can say whatever he wants. So completely have no issue there. Absolutely have issue with him doing it in uniform. Absolutely have issue with him resisting arrest. And I use this, with the people I was talking to yesterday, because of course, like you, I was getting tagged by everybody because some people just want us to shit on the Marine Corps, which I'm never going to do, ever. Right? Listen, the Marine Corps could push the button launching a nuke when it's not justified. I will still not shit on my Marines. I will then be considered a bad guy because Marine Corps forever, baby. Right? But in all seriousness, is you remember when we had Schaller on?
Yeah.
He did something. He didn't do it in the blues, but he did it in our Marine Corps uniform.
Yep.
Marine Corps uniform. And he accepted, owned, and identified that what he was doing was wrong and that he would accept the consequence of that. He said, I'm making this choice because I am trying to make a point here. But I'm also going to accept the responsibility that comes with my choice. And, should Schaller have done that in uniform? No, he shouldn't have. But again, he accepted the responsibility. What you're seeing with these people and the other guy and gal that did it a couple months ago, last year, is they want to use the uniform for the notoriety to send the message. But then they want to avert the responsibility. If they know what the UCMJ is, every single one of us that was in the military, regardless of branch, knows the UCMJ. And guess what? If you're going to violate the UCMJ, there's a consequence for that. So if you want to go in there in your dress blues and make a statement, go in there in your dress blues and make a statement, and then man up like a real man did, like Schaller did, and take the responsibility of that action. Don't sit there and fight. He broke his arm for being a dumbass.
But Schaller was commissioned. This guy's not active duty anymore.
We can still be held by the UCMJ.
Not if you have to be medically, you have to be retired, or you have to be you have to be retired, enlisted, and you've done your what the fuck is it called, the inactive reserves. Your 4 years inactive reserves
until your IRR runs out. The UCMJ still owns you.
He's got an Iraq ribbon and a car. I'm pretty sure his IAR is out. Plus, he's a sergeant. So your IAR only applies if you do 4 and done. If he did 8 years, the IAR gets eliminated by those extra 4 years.
I will not argue because I'm not completely confident on that one. I would say we should probably look that one up.
No, that I'm 100% sure on that.
Because you just had you are you. What it's different.
If you do. Hold on. If you do 4 years and then you get out, you have to do 4 years inactive reserves.
Right. I'm not talking about that part.
If you do 4 years, if you do 8 years in active duty, your IAR is gone. You don't have to do IAR when you get out. So whatever time over your 4 years that you go into your next enlistment, if you only enlist for 2 more years, then you only have to do 2 years of IAR once you get out.
Okay, that's fine. Because like I said, I would have. That's why you can look it up. But the point I'm trying to make is, I'm not completely confident that you have to just be on IRR. And the reason being is you have some of these people that go and wear a military uniform that were never in the military, and NCIS is investigating that. And these are people that were never even in the military.
No, you can't. An enlisted, service member that's not subject to not retired, either medically or time, based on your time in service, they can't recall you for the UCMJ. Now, if you're a commissioned officer, they can. And that's what they tried to do with Mark Kelly.
They're going to do it with them. I hope they drop the hammer on them even harder.
I don't think so, but I don't know that they're going to do anything. Sheahy's in a lot of shit, man. Tim Sheahy got out of his chair. Senator Tim Sheahy got out of his chair and ran over there and was pulling on the dude when he got his arm broke.
What's wrong with that?
A senator?
Yeah.
Oh, no way, dude.
Why?
That's not, you don't do that.
So let me ask you this. Let's just say that Marine, well, I won't say the Marine guy. I don't want to put the Marine guy. Let's just say a suspect was beating up on one of the people in the audience there, and Sheehy runs over there and tackles that person until the Capitol Police get there, or helps the Capitol Police with this guy that was attacking one of the people that was there observing. Would any of us have issue with that?
If say that again?
Let's just change the scenario of what he went for. Instead of him going over there because a guy was yelling, let's just say that there was a guy there that was beating up on one of the audience members, and Sheehy runs over there to help Capitol Police stop this guy from beating up on one of the audience members. Nobody would have issue with that.
You're stopping a forcible felony in doing that. This guy was not, there was no forcible felony that was going on here.
It doesn't have to be a felony.
Well, yeah, it
It
does.
just has to be a crime.
No. Has to be a crime against another person. Like the guy's just being removed. Capitol Police had that under control.
Show me the law.
I don't think anything's going to happen to him, but it's horrible optics.
No, it's not.
Oh, he's getting destroyed.
In your algorithm, they're hailing him as a hero in mine. And I agree with that. And I hope that every other person that goes in there acts like a loudmouth, that there's brave congressmen that'll get up there and open a can of whoop ass on them. My algorithm shows the complete opposite, which is, this is a good point for people to be aware of. You know, is what you're seeing in your timeline reality, or is it the reality of what just your algorithm is? Because obviously me and CannCon have two different perspectives off this based off what we're seeing on our timelines.
All right. Let's see, where are we going to go next? Because I did not plan on going off on an hour-long detour on all that. All right, let's jump into this
conversation though, man. Because there's a lot of people out there that are only getting like one perspective on that.
On which
one? I'm not talking about Shady. I'm talking about the Iran conflict. What's going on?
I mean, yeah, but I think SitRep will be a much better venue for that conversation than a daily news. Got to get a lot of news to get through still. All right, let's jump into this story. House kills effort to release all congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports. Please tell me you agree with me on this one. Have you seen this report yet?
I have not seen it.
Okay. Nancy Mace forced a floor vote. I'm not a huge fan of Nancy Mace, but this bill right here that she resolution, excuse me, that she introduced. She forced a floor vote on a resolution directing the House Ethics Committee to make public all reports on allegations of congressional lawmakers and aides engaging in sexual misconduct or harassment. In a 357 to 65 vote, the House voted to refer the Mace resolution to committee, a move that effectively kills it. In a joint statement, the Republican and Democratic leaders of the committee argued that, quote, it could chill victim cooperation and witness participation in ongoing and future investigations, end quote, and would make it harder for the committee to, quote, investigate and eliminate sexual misconduct in the House. Here and elsewhere, perpetrators of sexual misconduct should never be shielded from responsibility for their misdeeds, says Chairman Michael Guest. But they added that, quote, victims may be re-traumatized by public disclosure of interim work product, excerpts of interview transcripts, and certain exhibits, and witnesses who often only speak to the committee confidentially or on conditions of future anonymity could fear retaliation if their cooperation is made public. So do you think Congress should be able to hide behind sexual misconduct allegations based on, essentially no transparency? They don't have to release this information, but we as the taxpayer have to pay the settlements that go into it?
No, hell no. I think it should be transparent, 100% transparent. Now, with that, I think that, whether it's substantiated or whether it's proven to be unsubstantiated, that needs to be immediately made available too, because you could destroy people's careers by just making a bunch of false allegations, knowing that it's going to make its way to the media.
Damn, I was kind of hoping you'd push back because I wanted to see the chat start lobbying for concealing sexual misconduct crimes by our senators. I'm just kidding. They wouldn't do that. The war thing's contentious. I get that. This is something that's not contentious. Holding Congress accountable is something that should not be contentious in any way, shape, or form. And I'm with you. The fact that there was only, 65 votes to hold them accountable tells you all you need to know about Congress.
I tells you how many allegations made against them is what I shouldn't say that, but
Well,
Probably.
you shouldn't say that, but you can probably say that. Now, let's go ahead and we got a clip here of Una Panuna talking about that exact thing, and let's go ahead and jump into that.
All right. I support Representative Mace's subpoena here, as well as the amendment to it. And I just think it's really disgusting how this institution protects itself, because y'all, just half of them voted to send this stuff to House Ethics, where you know it's going to die.
Yep.
We know that members of Congress are using taxpayer dollars to pay off sexual harassment. We just had a member of Congress literally sexually harass a woman that then lit herself on fire, and you guys all protected him.
Yep.
You guys all protected him. My own side, your side. And so if you guys want to talk about victims, if you want to go out and virtue signal, and then you guys are going to kill her stuff on the floor and then try to pass, yeah, of course we should subpoena all of this stuff. But just, I'm not going to sit here and play games. I think it's a complete fraud. I think that's why the American people hate us. I think the midterms are coming up, and everyone should go on record for this. And I hope that members are exposed for this. I hope it goes back, I think, to the 70s, because it's wrong that it's happening. It's wrong that we cover up for it. It's wrong that we can't censor our own side because people are busy making deals because you guys don't want to censor your side. It's a deal that's been cut, and people hate us for it. So yeah, I support it.
One of the most intelligent things I've ever heard from so that brings me to, and I was going to play a clip of Thomas Massie hammering on this from last year or 2 years ago, 2024. But yeah, I don't want to piss you off too much this early in the morning for you over there.
I'm
needed your extra beauty sleep.
I'm happy as hell with all the people that are starting to trash on Massey. I was like, y'all finally seen it? Let's go. Let's go.
All right, now I got to play it because it's not trashing on them.
You know, Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money, right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges, the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money. And I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors, these sexual misconduct allegations?
Congressman, if a complaint were to come to us about it, I'm sure it would be thoroughly investigated.
Sure, it would.
Can you bring that up one more time? With Massey, not the other guy?
Go ahead, say it. I was thinking it.
Sure looks like a different Massey to me.
I was thinking it. I said, dude, I said it when we watched the last time we played a clip of him. That is not the same Thomas Massie.
Yo, he's got a new relationship. Okay.
He's like Spider-Man when Spider-Man gets the symbiote on him and turns into Black Spider-Man, and you see Toby, Toby Keith's or Toby Maguire.
Do you have the ability to do like a side-by-side so people can see it? I mean,
no.
I get it. I think a lot of people exploit that, it's not the same person, but there are a few situations where it does seem kind of irrefutable. I mean, it just, when you look at that Massey, you look at this Massey, there are some significant differences, little things like the nose and the ear size, and granted, can a dude lose some weight, especially, in the loss? Yeah, I can go with that. But at the same time, I mean, that looks like, dude.
A beard can do some crazy things, I guess. I don't know.
Even his nose looks different, man.
I'm with you.
He doesn't strike me as the kind of man that would go get a nose job. I mean, that would be a reasonable explanation, but I just don't think that
he might be pretty vain. He
Maybe,
just lost his wife, getting back on his, getting back on in the market.
I'm willing to entertain that. That is definitely, it's logical. It is.
I'm with you. It's weird. I'm with you. I said it. I said it a long time ago. I'm with you. All right. So we do also have the Tim Walz and Keith Ellison hearing, and I want to play this clip here. I think this is Brandon Gill in this clip hammering Tim Walz over the Somali fraud.
And when did you become governor?
In January of 2019.
In 2019. Okay. So using 2018 as a baseline, do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims?
I do not, Congressman.
It's about $671,000. Do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
$342 million. That's about a 500x increase over 6 years. Were there
First and foremost, what program, Alpha, in what world can you have a 500 time increase, a 34,000% increase in an expense and not raise massive red flags?
I can tell you this, and I think I've shared it with you. So I used to work for social services a very long time ago.
You told us that a while back.
Yeah, for about 3 years. I was a medical eligibility technician here in California. I can tell you with personal experience, all the way back to the early 2000s, right? That when we start to approve certain cases at a rate, and this is, at least as we believe, far beyond artificial intelligence ever being a part of computer software programs. This was just human people analyzing things. The second there was a slight increase that was recognized as an anomaly, it triggered meetings. Like people come, what's going on? Was there a crisis? Was there a flooding? Was there a fire? Was there a what's the word I'm looking for when there's a big thing that happens in states? Can't think of the word.
Catastrophe?
A catastrophe, yeah. Was there a catastrophe, a catastrophic event that unfolded? Like, and in the absence of that, workers were being brought in to saying, hey, are they understanding the formulas? Is there a training issue that's going on here? You're going to take 500x? That is impossible not to flag these institutions that are designed to pick up the smallest anomaly. That means these anomalies were picked up and ignored, picked up and ignored, picked up and ignored. That's the only way that happens. People disagreeing with me? I'm just
No. I just think it's hilarious that, somebody that like 20 minutes ago was like, CannCon, shut up, Alpha's right, is now like Massey's playing a role. He's not a bad guy. Get into a fight with Alpha over that. It's hilarious. It's rich to watch that. No, I'm with you, man. Like any type of increase in an expenditure like that would and if I had my business, if I had a 500x increase in my revenue over 6 or 7 years, the IRS would be knocking down my door. The IRS would be all over me. I wouldn't be able to breathe. And meanwhile, we've got all of this going on. Let's keep getting in here because Brandon Gill killed it. Like you could literally sum up because I've been listening to clips all day, all night, and all morning, getting ready for today. And this one pretty much nails all of it.
Was there 500 times the number of autism patients in that time period?
I couldn't speak specifically to it, but I will say, Congressman, that
doesn't sound reasonable, right? You don't think there was a 500x increase in the number of autism patients in 6 years, right?
Correct, and that's why we ordered on-site visits starting back in 2024.
So we agree that doesn't sound reasonable. Would you also agree that a single taxpayer dollar wasted on fraud is a dollar too much to tolerate?
Yes.
Yep. And would you agree that as governor, ultimately you're responsible if tax dollars are defrauded?
Yes, I would agree.
Yep. Would you also agree that calling somebody racist is a serious accusation?
If they are racist, I think it's
I'm asking you, is that a serious accusation to make about somebody?
I think it's just an observation of reality.
All right, well, let's go there. Is it racist for a government official to identify fraud?
No.
No. Is it Islamophobic?
To identify fraud?
To identify fraud?
No, I don't believe it would be.
How come multiple whistleblowers have said that your administration told them not to say anything about widespread fraud across multiple agencies because doing so would be considered racist or Islamophobic?
I can't speak to it because it's not anything I would say.
Well, that's what your administration has said and has told whistleblowers. And as you just testified, the buck stops with you. That's what you stated in your statement whenever you announced you weren't running again. Are you familiar with Faye Bernstein?
Yes, I'm familiar with the name.
She's a Democrat, isn't she?
I wouldn't know that.
She stated publicly that she's a Democrat. She's only voted Democrat in her life. She's also stated publicly that she was retaliated against and called racist and that her work responsibilities were diminished whenever she was highlighting fraud within your administration. Are you familiar with that?
I couldn't speak to
Why do you think she would?
Allegation.
Why do you think she would say that?
I can't speak for what
you have no idea?
I do not.
You would agree that the tone in your administration comes from you ultimately, right?
The tone is that.
The tone of how you might deal with whistleblowers.
Right, and we protect them.
It doesn't sound like you're protecting them. We heard from Representative Kristen Robbins, quote, "We have dozens of credible whistleblower reports saying the exact same thing, that people were told not to say anything because they'd be called racist or Islamophobic, or it would hurt the state." Do you think it's racist or Islamophobic to highlight and try to stop fraud?
It is not, and I certainly
It's not, but that was the message your administration was sending to multiple whistleblowers.
I can't speak to that.
So it wasn't just the whistleblowers. So in the Feeding Our Futures fraud program, a company that went from a nonprofit with $3 million in revenue to a a for-profit corporation. They lost their nonprofit status, became a for-profit organization, and their revenues increased to over $200 million behind COVID. And this is the group that was, allegedly feeding school children that weren't able to get meals in school. They were feeding them at restaurants. Huge fraud program. The whistleblowers tried to sue them for that and stop it. And in the case against Feeding Our Futures, they literally called the people racist for trying to stop them from being able to feed these people. Nobody threw up the red flags.
Dude,
And
have they quoted how much the amount of fraud is recently? I know back, at the beginning, before Tom Holm and all of them got out, that there was some numbers, but do we have an updated number?
no, I mean, you see 9 billion and 19 billion are the two numbers that are thrown about the most. We haven't seen any official numbers yet. We haven't seen any action. One of the stories you missed before you got here was the autopen story, about that going away now. And, I said that the criminal case against the autopen is going by the wayside, but I still think there's a legitimization case that needs to be made against preemptive pardons as a whole, like whether or not preemptive pardons are a legit thing. And the reason I bring this up is I think that this is playing into the Doge thing and everything that happened with Doge, and whether or not we're going to see this fraud get exposed. We haven't seen the DOJ prosecute anybody yet, but again, like you said, we don't have any solid official numbers yet, other than what they tell us in these congressional hearings, which they're protected by speech and debate. So it could all be utter bullshit, but it's probably not.
Yeah, there's that. We'll see. Has the administration come out and confirm that? Because I do know that there was 2 articles, and they were saying this is what was told, but I haven't seen any confirmation. But again, I haven't looked for confirmation since probably early this afternoon, yesterday. But I was kind of curious, is it's going to be one of those ones that Trump comes out like the Pentagon one and be like, we didn't say that?
I mean, I know he's posted the 9 and 19 billion,
No, I'm talking about the autopen.
Oh, the autopen. No, they're saying that Janine Pirro is the one that they're being told that they dropped the case. Now, again, I don't think there was a criminal case to be made in the autopen, at least not against Joe Biden.
No, and there was solid points for that, and I remember that.
But I think there is a delegitimizing. I don't, prosecute the people that may have, run this, subverted the president. Prosecute them. But I'm more concerned about delegitimizing the pardons and getting those things thrown out.
Which he did.
Well, he did, but they're still protected. Like we don't have a court case yet. Like we haven't tried to prosecute Adam Schiff yet and see.
No. But what I'm saying is he did do I think it was executive order. Right? That revoked all those pardons because they weren't legitimate. And I think the whole pumping up of the autopen was to get the court of public opinion to support that. So nobody could argue it. So, and the other thing people have to remember, and I actually had I was kind of shocked. I'll be quick about this so we can get on with the news things. But a detective I used to work with said, "Hey man, you guys are kicking ass on that show." And I was like, you watch? One, and he does. So, shout out to him that's watching. I don't know if he wants me to say his name or not. Probably doesn't. Probably because he's still there. But one of the things he says is he goes, and I was like, dang, that's a good point. He goes, remember that when you arrest someone, now if you want to bring them in for questioning on other investigations, it's not as easy as before, because this is someone that's probably now retained counsel and all that stuff. So as long as you haven't formally charged someone, it's easier to continue to go back in home visits, bring them in, go by their work and do these things. Just because if someone's charged, yes, and they lawyer up, you're done asking questions in that scenario. And technically you can regarding separate uninvolved investigations. But if you know that those uninvolved investigations ultimately can be involved because you're establishing a criminal enterprise, you violated that person's rights. So it was a solid point. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because I even forgot about that.
Okay, so we're going to start to wrap up here. I do want to play this clip here. Jordan Conradson over at Gateway Pundit got the opportunity to ask Representative Tim Burchett, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite congressmen. Epic response to all of the shenanigans that we just saw in that hearing. We just played Brandon Gill. Jim Jordan had a fantastic segment with him. They also went after Keith Ellison for the same thing. Why you're not prosecuting this fraud in that kind of thing. But here's Burchett.
What do you think so far of this hearing? Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, are you convinced?
No, man. Look, $19 billion. Right. I was in the state legislature, and that was the budget for the whole state of Tennessee. $19 billion have been stolen. They're covering. They're not going to do a day in jail. Everybody's going to wring their hands and talk real tough. We need to get some guts and start arresting some of these people.
That's DOJ, right?
Yeah, they need to
Pam
get off their
Bondi needs
ass
to step
and
it
do
up.
something. People are fed up. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat or whatever. You're stealing my dadgum money. I want it back, and I want your ass in jail.
Let's go.
You've been going full ham, man.
We need more from that. Again, I still think, and I said this at GART Vegas, I don't think we start seeing the arrests until after the midterms. And so I'm not gonna black pill like I am on the Iran war. I'm not gonna black pill on the arrests until after the midterms. But I am getting a little antsy on the election stuff because that is coming up very quickly, and we got to get moving on all the election stuff. So, what else do we want to talk about? Speaking of elections, Ken Paxton. So President Trump is supposed to endorse somebody in that race. Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, and we got a couple stories on that real quick here. First, let's just get into the reporting on how much they're spending on it.
This is what makes a lot of people at home just go about politics. This is the most expensive Senate race in history. $71 million spent just in favor of Senator Cornyn, the Republican incumbent. $71 million spent for one candidate who's probably going to be in a runoff. So they're going to probably have to do it again. But then you look at the other races here. Pro Tellerico, $24.3 million.
All right.
Where does that money come from, bro?
Exactly. $71 million in a primary for one candidate. And by the way, he's running neck and neck with the guy that spent $4.4 million is what Paxton spent. And if we pair that up with the anti-Cornyn, then that's what, 8.1 million. 8.1 million. Now, what's interesting there is they don't have anti-Paxton money on that chart. Do you see anti-Paxton up there?
Nah, just pro-Paxton, pro-Crockett, anti-Hunt, pro-Hunt. Yeah.
That's interesting. I am very curious to see who President Trump endorses in this. There's a lot of speculation that Trump is going to endorse Cornyn because the endorsement is a bargaining chip to get them to put the SAVE Act on the floor. And, if he does do that, again, it's one of those situations where you use your discernment. I'm still pulling for Paxton in that race.
It's our job to try to amplify the people we want, like Doc Chambers, like Paxton. I agree. And just do our best to try to understand the geopolitical maneuvering that Trump does, with the people he endorses. But it's not our job. And I said this when John brought me on Devolution Power Hour. Honesty is the only way we have to act. However we honestly feel about whatever it is that we're witnessing. Now, granted, we got to do research. That way we know that, the reporting we're doing or opinions that we're doing are not just emotional based. Our honesty is based off of our research. That's important. But I think the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is, well, if he's going to do this endorsement for this, to do this, then that's how I feel about that, because that's a whole lot of what ifing to come to a conclusion. It's just be honest in the moment And then as things develop, then your opinion can change on those things. Like, for instance, you guys all know my position on Massey, right? Is there a possibility that he could be playing a role? Like somebody said, yeah, that's a possibility, but that's not going to change how I feel about him. Now, if that ever comes to light, then it would change the way I feel about him. But in the moment, the way he's pushing back and the things that he's saying and the lies that he's telling, I'm going to call him out on that.
All right. Let's play this clip just real quick of Paxton. Well, we don't have to play the clip. Paxton basically says here that, even if President Trump does endorse Cornyn and calls for Paxton to drop out of the race, that he's going to stay the path and he's going to fight it out. And I think he's going to win, to be honest with you. I don't see President Trump has tremendous influence, more influence than anybody. And I don't know if it will hold up against Paxton versus Cornyn. I think Cornyn is remember when Cornyn was supposed to be the Senate majority leader and they had to pull that, like President Trump couldn't get him across that finish line. He was getting they were getting blasted for promoting Cornyn, and then it ends up going to Thune, which is equally as bad, if not worse, potentially worse. I don't know, one way or the other. But yeah, we'll see. Keep your eyes on Texas.
A couple of the guys that I talk to pretty often, these are Texas folks, right? Like these guys are in the mud of Texas politics, and man, they are struggling with some of the stuff that's been unfolding. But they're saying that if Trump comes out and endorses Cornyn, that he is going to create a lot of people that don't normally vote in runoffs. You already got bad numbers for primaries, you get worse numbers for runoffs. That he is going to create a lot of people to come vote for Paxton. Like, that's one of the considerations. I don't know. I do not know enough about voting strategy and all that stuff. I just found it interesting that was a take.
You always have to remember when you look at a lot of this stuff, Alpha, is that even for the audience that's watching right now, we are a very small minority in the grand scheme of things. In terms of, most people are still watching the Fox Newses and the CNNs and all that stuff. Not most, but a chunk of people. And a lot of people don't watch any news whatsoever. And so, they're going to go just based off of what President Trump says in this case. Now, I would hope to think that Texans are a little bit, do their own due diligence and all that. I think anybody should. But I think that I don't know if Trump endorses Cornyn, I think Cornyn wins, unfortunately. I mean, is he that much despised by Texans in general that a Paxton would win? I
don't think that it's Trump, just because I agree with you, because again, every single endorsement Trump pulled won. So and I presented that to the guys that brought up that point. I was like, y'all playing with fire with that theory. But again, I don't know Texas politics, but I do agree with you on that perspective, that if Trump gives endorsement, that's going to be a hard one to beat. Here's my question though: did Paxton have to relinquish his position in order to do this race? Like, let's just say he loses. If he loses, does he's still the AG, right?
I don't know. Let me look it up, because I know it says that he did not have to resign to run.
So he would still be the attorney general.
Yes. Yes, they only have to relinquish if they're a district clerk, county judge, district attorney, or sheriff.
Or if they win. Right?
And if they win. If under Article 16, Section 65 of the Texas Constitution, a person is only required to resign from their current office to run for another if they hold one of the specific roles listed, such as district clerk, county judge, district attorney, or sheriff. Texas Attorney General is not among those offices. It's one of only 5 states with a resign to run law, but it applies only to a limited set of local and judicial offices.
So we still keep him in position to fulfill the things that he's been working on.
Yeah, but I want Cornyn out. I want that to be
I'm with you. Cornyn's establishment. I don't disagree with you. But same thing with Wheatley, out there. I've asked some people and they're like, he's not a bad guy. It's just he's GOP establishment. It's just as I understand it, the information that's been shared with me, and forgive me, my throat's been killing me, is it's not just about winning the primaries. These people have to be able to win the seat, and when you get to the midterms, you know what I mean, with other races. I'm not talking about like the governors and stuff like that, but when you get a lot of the endorsements that Trump does, especially for stuff, is you got to be able to win that seat when we get to midterms. And we have to weigh that into consideration too. It may be someone we really like, but do they have the name recognition, or do they have the support system behind them to win? Because as you saw on that one, 71, that's crazy, dude. $71 million. That is also the kind of money that's going to be out there to try to take on the Democrats. Because again, this goes into the conversation from last week and earlier today. If we lose the House, we cannot lose the Senate. And not only can he not lose the Senate, we have to try to gain at least a seat or two.
More than that. if we don't pick up more than that, well,
we did pick up one. It's just people haven't realized it yet because it's not.
God, he's already voting with them every single time. He voted to advance to shoot down. He was the only Democrat to vote against the War Powers Resolution.
Dude, and he wore a suit.
I am not celebrating that. I am not fucking celebrating that, man.
Let me ask you this. Let me just ask you this.
This.
Hold on. Just so you guys know, because somebody actually sent me a DM and they're like, "Hey, are you in CannCon?" We are talking about Uncle Fester. Somebody sent me a message. Actually, I'll send it to you. And they're like, "Hey, you CannCon, cool. Like, you guys been arguing on these. Me and CannCon can argue on positions all day. We're good. Like, I will battle on any trench with this guy." But my question is, do you agree that we are in a 5th generation warfare?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like Gil was said, then you would agree that there are going to be things that just don't make sense to us.
You're not getting me on the John Fetterman is not a complete brain dead derp. I don't want to make
Is John Fetterman really John Fetterman, bro? He look like he's another Massey person, dude. If people go back and look at John Fetterman over the last couple of years and look at the one that we've seen,
which version of him?
I don't know. It's just I'll listen. There's just weird stuff going on, man. There's weird stuff going on.
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
All y'all motherfuckers that go over and they're like, "Yeah, Fetterman." I'm going to remind you guys of the Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz race. Man, that might be backing Fetterman might be worse than the no new wars. And now, fight Iran.
How about you bring up some of his recent sound bites where you're like, damn, that sounded good.
He's still pretty out there. I do want to correct one thing. We're going to wrap up here. Yes, I saw in the chat that Ken Paxton is not running for is not, he's termed out now, but he's still going to be the AG. And the distinction there is in Florida, you have to resign unless you're Ron DeSantis and they pass a law to allow you not to, but you have to resign to run. So he would have had to relinquish the position of AG. That's what I was making my point. Not that he's running again for AG or.
Yeah, he keeps that. He gets to finish whatever he's working on. Is the thing, because I saw people bringing up he's done this and this, and he still has a window to finish it. I don't know what that window is, but he still has a window to finish it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens, man. And unfortunately, we're not going to get any closure on any of this stuff, or any closure on any of this stuff. We got to sit here and watch what happens as it happens. And does this turn into a long-term war? Does it end in 60 days, 30 days? I pray to God it does. I really, really pray to God it does. And we'll talk more about this tonight on SitRep for sure. JB is going to be joining us. I'm pretty much going to be moderating. I'll jump in. You guys will see. I support Alpha on certain things. I will fight him tooth and nail on certain things. But JB, man, I'm going to have to. Whew.
I'm going to end up being the referee to calm down. It's good. That one's gonna shift play. As a matter of fact, we should just tell Cam, hey, we know you're not a veteran, but you should just come in and be the moderator, bro. Like, be the guest moderator for us. There's no way you're gonna just be able to moderate. There's no way. There's no way.
I have a mute button. I don't think JB has power in that room. So
I did. I put the link to that political article in the private chat. I don't know if you wanted to be able to, if you can share that with the YouTube people. I can't. It doesn't let me join the chat over there.
There we go. What is this that we're looking at?
This is the political article that talks about the effect that China has because of what we're doing to Iran. It's a solid article. I mean, I think you would enjoy it as well.
Iran and Venezuela export most of their crude oil to China. Oh shit! I'm not sharing it. I'm sorry. You should have told me I wasn't sharing it.
Oh no, I meant share it in the YouTube chat so they could actually grab the link. I mean, you can share it on the screen. You can share it on the screen too. Like I said, I think it's a good one. But there was somebody who wanted to see it.
There we go. All right, shared it in the chat there. All right, let's jump into some Rumble rants. I think we had a few. Oh, we got a lot. Oh. All right, Artsy Joan. I love Solo, Brian. God bless. Yeah, well, I'm getting a little used to it. 50 minutes. You broke your record today. 50 minutes. All right, Lee Walden. Morning, Brian. You consider exploring the Article 5 Convention of States I've looked into for years. Lots of mixed opinions. Since there's appears to be a tax on it, it might just be good. Convention of States is dangerous. Very dangerous. Broadly, I love the concept, but go ahead.
Can you just break it down a little bit? Because people have presented it to me, and I don't know if people maybe just doing a bad job of presenting it, but the few people that I've talked to kind of explained it to me. I was just like, that doesn't sound good. But people keep pushing it. So I'm like, am I missing something?
So in Article 5, in Article 5 of the Constitution, there's two ways that you can amend the Constitution. Either Congress brings forward an amendment, 2/3 vote, goes down to the, to the states, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify it, right? Congress can, that's the way of Congress ratifying or amending the Constitution. The other way is the people can do it by having the states' legislatures call for a convention of states. And you have to have, I think you have to have 2/3 of the states call for it, and then 3/4 would have to ratify anything that's done. And this would essentially turn into a constitutional convention like we did in 1783. The problem I have with the Convention of States is while they go in with a very specific and narrow focus, they can ultimately do whatever they want in that convention. That's what happened in 1783. In 1783, they were called to ratify, or excuse me, to amend the Articles of Confederacy. And that's when, of course, James Madison and everybody else got together and said, you know what, let's scrap this entire Articles of Confederacy and draft a whole new document. And they had the authority to do that because that's the authority that was given to them. You can essentially do the same thing in an Article 5 Convention of States. So when you send your delegates from each state to go and amend the Constitution, even if, we're only supposed to add term limits and a balanced budget and, maybe define the speech and debate clause a little bit better, whatever the case might be, they could essentially go in there and be like, you know what, let's make this the Second Amendment more specific, and it only applies to handguns and rifles, and let's also go in and amend free speech to it doesn't apply to internet talk or whatever.
That's dangerous when you don't have
very dangerous
secured elections.
It's very dangerous, but it also is something I feel like Congress will never do it themselves, and there's a lot of things that need to be done to reel in Congress, forcing a balanced budget, requiring a balanced budget, forcing term limits, things like that. So it's a gray area, man. It's a very, very gray area. Artsy Joan, Alpha, God bless you too. Let's see, 11:51 or 10:51 when he finally made it. I'm gonna give you shit for that, man. Until you do it again in like 2 weeks. And seriously, I'm gonna text you every morning from now on, and if you don't respond, at least with a thumbs up, I'm just gonna call up Ash and be like, Ash, come on. And then Alpha's gonna show up, and I'm gonna be like, looking at you down there, and I'm gonna be like, hi. Lee Walden, we have been at
He did
war our
today
whole
for
life.
47 minutes, just so you guys know.
What's that?
I said that's what he did to me today for 47 minutes, just so everybody knows.
He was only about 15 seconds late, and I was just like, I'm not bringing him up. No, I'm just kidding. Lee Walden, we've been at war our whole life. Trump is the tool to stop all that shot. Check out Kim Clement and his amazing prophetic words for Trump and his mission just because.
I did see that video recently. Pretty wild, man.
Clement? Oh, yeah.
Pretty wild, man.
Stick, man. Some of his prophecies were fantastic.
Well, I had seen a lot of Kim Clement's videos, but they were about like Trump in the election, things like I never saw ones about Iran.
Oh, I haven't seen those. Send those to me.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's creepy. I mean, I don't mean creepy because it's bad. It's just creepy because it's like one of them's from 2005. It's almost 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Rules for thee. Don't give him an inch. Expose the Brunson case. Let nature take its course.
Brunson case is done, folks.
I was about to say, are we still talking about the Brunson case?
It is. Shout out to them. And solid dudes. Yeah, solid dudes. But that's done.
I mean, they were spot on. They were not wrong about anything that they were arguing, but it just never went anywhere. Lee Walden, freaking love you guys. Keep it up, boys. Appreciate that, Lee Walden. Semper Paratus to our Coastie friend out there. John W. Ryan IV. I heard some ministers from Israel say Turkey is a major threat the other day. This supports what Alpha was just saying. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of shenanigans in this quote-unquote military operation that Trump called a war. I think we're going to see a lot of shenanigans in this thing over the next week or two. Also, it could just completely disappear from our minds forever. It's already starting to wane out. People are like, whatever. Big Gouda, when is Trump going to attack Zamunda? That I wouldn't even know.
I got to look up Zamunda.
I don't even know what he's talking about there. What is Zamunda? Now I got to know. Because it's Gouda, so it could be like Famunda.
Oh, okay, because I was like, I'm good on geography, and I don't remember.
Zamunda is the name of an African. Oh, we're Eddie Murphy's character. I didn't know it was called Zamunda. That's from the Eddie Murphy Coming to America movie. That's funny, Big Gouda. Glad I looked that up. That's a good one. Lee Walden, that's my point. Article 5 gives we the people to overcome the legislature. Yes, but who are the people? You don't think that if we run a convention of states that there's going to be undue influence on the delegates that we choose to go in there to do certain things that we can't undo once it comes out? Now, granted, when it comes out, they still got to ratify it by 3/4 of the legislatures. So
this is hilarious. You need to find. It's one of the recent ones. C-Man 265. Alpha's doing Marine Corps math again. You're right. Yeah. 2005 was more than 11 years ago.
Wow, Marines. I didn't catch that. I should have corrected that because I am actually very good at math. All right, Lee Walden. There's much more to it than your explanation, Brian. That's why that you do the dig on Article 5. I've done Article 5. I've had I can't remember the guy's name from Cause on the show before. I think it's got a lot of potential, but I think that there's a lot of risk in it too. I'm generally a supporter of the Convention of States. Generally.
You just have to have a absolutely irrefutable secured election, so you know that the people going are the people you actually voted for. In the absence of that, you're giving a weapon to the Democrats.
Yeah. I to be honest with you, I'd rather see Congress actually get off their lazy asses and do it, but they can't because they're an illegitimate body and because we have fake elections that keep everything balanced about 50-50 so that we can never actually do anything meaningful in this country. And until we fix that, none of it matters. Nothing matters. Not the war with Iran, not the Somali fraud. Like none of it matters until we fix the elections. That's it.
I completely agree with you on that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tune in tonight. If you got melted down if you melted down over Alpha and I's discussion on Iran now, wait until you see Sit Rep when we're unfiltered and we can put on the boxing gloves and whoop each other's ass, and I don't have to worry about letting the conversation die out because we got other shit to cover, and I can keep debating because I know how Alpha he'll just keep on going. No, it's mainly going to be JB and Alpha. So tune into that 9 p.m. Eastern. Alpha, you got anything else coming up, brother?
Yeah, St. Pete 70 in the chat says Alpha once brought a knife to a gunfight just to even the odds. That is so awesome. However, we can't use that. Never bring a knife to a gunfight anymore. They now have knives
that shoot guns. I know.
Shoot, bro.
I saw that too. It's like a 22 with like a revolver
with
built
6
into the
rounds
hilt.
in it, dude. With 6 rounds. So you got a knife that shoots. I was just like,
that's crazy, man. Some of the shit that I'm seeing on my feed with guns and stuff is nuts. All right, we got to get out of here. John's gonna start yelling at me. See you guys tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in. No, Alpha and I are not at each other's throat. It's funny to see that, but yeah, we're gonna be boxing each other out. Nah, there's no problems there. We have differing opinions, guys. You can have a differing opinion and still get along with people. My father-in-law is a bleeding heart liberal, and I love the guy to death. All right.
Friction at Badlands. Friction.
Absolutely. Friction is fantastic. So, all right, we'll see you guys tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. We're out.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.